Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Conscious Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Linda Summers, and we've got another great show for you today. Our topic is Upgrade Your Money Story so you can handle the money objection with Mickey Kingray. And before we bring Mickey on board, I want to give you a little bit of background information about her. Mickey is a speaker, conscious business consultant, authentic sales strategist, and transformational coach for women entrepreneurs in the new paradigm of women being in their business with more success, fulfillment, and purpose in their whole life and doing less, with less pushing, stressing, and striving. She stands for women creating their own rules, knowing what they want and how to ask for it in an empowered way that creates new possibilities for expansion. Her work supports women to identify their purpose, master the art of authentic sales conversations, develop integrated sales and marketing strategies, and empowered communication techniques so you can live a life of rich, aligned life, play with your family, and be true to yourself without compromise. Mickey combines her extensive business background with her trainings and certifications as a master transformational coach, a certified health coach, parent coach, eating psychology coach, yoga instructor, craniosacral therapy, personal development geek, and Akashic Records teacher. This provides a unique perspective that finds the middle between mainstream and woo-woo and meets each individual exactly where they are. And with that, I'd love to welcome Mickey to the show. Hi, Mickey.
Hi. Thank you.
You're welcome. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's great to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you here. And this is, like I said before we came on the show, this is a great topic for me personally, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that the truth that it's like, this is a great conversation. So I am so glad we're having this conversation.
Good.
So
me too.
Yes. So I just really want to begin first to really kind of find out what's your story and how this all came about for you. If you can give us a brief idea of how all this happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I started working in corporate, long ago. And I was, director of e-commerce and doing product management, product marketing. So I've always been in this e-commerce sales and marketing space. And I loved that work. But what I found was as I was pregnant with my first child, that I really, I believed that I wanted to go back to work. And that was going to be my thing because it was all I knew, really. And so we had arranged it that my husband was going to stay home with our daughter. And as soon as I had her, I could not imagine leaving her and going back to work. And I would cry every day, sitting in the nursing room, looking at the picture of her cute little face. And it was just, breaking my heart day by day. And I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And it was, in that moment that I was very compelled to figure out a way that I could have my own business and be able to have more flexibility so that I could do work that I was passionate about and at the same time be able to have more flexibility and time with my daughter. So fast forward now, I've got 3 kids, and it took me a really kind of windy path to be able to move completely away from my e-commerce world and, move all the way into the health coaching and parent coaching and all that kind of stuff to ultimately find my way back to business because that's what I've always known and loved. And so I'm bringing all of those pieces together to help women entrepreneurs to really stand in their truth and be the leader of their business and how that shows up in all of the different places, especially with sales. One of the things that I really noticed about myself as I reflected was that it took me a while to come into accepting the fact that I actually really love sales and I'm really good at it. It was the very first thing I ever even did in any career or any job I had. But when I moved into the corporate world, I really saw that, there was a kind of expectation like, yes, we're going to for sure hit all these multi-million-dollar sales goals, but if we're going to do anything that's too focused on sales, that's bad, right? And so I kind of really shut down that part of me, and it took me a while to come back to that and really integrate a way for me to do it in a way that feels really true and authentic. And I feel that now, and I find that. And I actually love having sales conversations with people. It feels really transformational and really powerful as like a first step for people to stand in their, next version of themselves. So that's my long and windy path in a shortened version. But now I'm really excited to be able to work with people to stand in that truth for themselves.
Well, what I love about that and what you were saying is that, first of all, a lot of people can relate to this that are listening and will be listening afterwards, is that all you knew was to go back to work, right? So it's like going back to work and not really following what really our soul and where our spirit wants to go. And something else you said, that you began to piece together all that you really, really loved and taking all of that to do something that you really love, and that's this. So I think that's awesome. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit to go, oh, I've got all these, I'm really good at sales, I'm really good at this. How can I apply that into helping other people, because it's such a passion of yours?
Yes, exactly. And it's funny how our brain can play tricks on us, to think that we have to do something completely different, or we have to start all over from scratch. And what I find even with a lot of my clients is that when we actually do look at our whole story, it's often the things that we can't see because it's so obvious, it's so right in front of our faces, that is actually the place where our big gifts actually live.
Absolutely. So what you did was you decided to piece everything together to start beginning to make the change. And then how did you go about, you just put yourself out there for people? How did you come into that?
Yeah, so when I was still working in corporate, I started, like I said, going way far away from business, going into health coaching and parent coaching and all those kinds of things as a way to develop a new skill, thinking that I didn't have any skills that I could bring into the entrepreneurial space. So clearly I need to start from scratch. And so that was the path I went down, and it was actually really great because I learned really amazing coaching skills, and I was able to transform myself in a lot of ways, both from my health and my parenting, and I still use tools that I've learned in those studies in the work that I do now, because it's really all connected, right? So I started going down those paths of studying and learning, and it really nourished me. It was one of those things that I loved. The learning part of it was the thing that really lit me up while I was still doing my corporate job. So I continued down that path, and when I completed my health coaching certification, part of that is that you bring in some clients. So I went to people that I knew and brought in some clients, and it just kind of kept going from there. And so I was doing that on the side. And then probably after a couple years, I ended up leaving my job and doing that as my full-time business.
Wow, so I think people listening too can say, you can say that it's not about quitting your job and just going, okay, I'm going to quit my job and just do this. You could if you have backup, but what you did was you worked on the side doing little things to enhance that and bring that into a business where you could quit. Which really leads me into the next question. The topic of this title is Upgrade Your Money Story so you can handle the money objection. So, what do you mean by money story that impacts how you handle money objections?
Yeah, so what I find and what I see is that so often, so we all have a money story. And our money story is our beliefs, our experiences that we have with money. And there's no good or bad in the money story. It's just what it is. And it's really about, is your money story serving you in creating what it is that you want? So if what you're wanting to create isn't happening, or you feel like you're bumping up against something, it's like, oh, I'm so close, but I can't get all the way, then your money story might not be serving you, right? Whereas if you're making how much you want to make and your life is, going the direction that you want, then your money story is supporting you just fine, right? So it's really when you're not in alignment with what you're wanting to create, that's where looking at your money story is something that is going to be useful. So what happens is, I see so many entrepreneurs that, and really a lot of women entrepreneurs that I work with, that start with they kind of are beating themselves up because they feel like a failure. They feel like, I've tried all of the systems, or I've done what everyone's told me to do and it's not working. Mm-hmm. And what I see is that there's more to it than following the, 1, 2, 3 steps. It's, definitely for some people the steps are great, and the steps are helpful in terms of having the knowledge base to understand different ways that businesses work. But there's also the more subtle parts, I'll call them subtle because they're things that you can't necessarily see, that just as much impact the results that you end up creating in your business. So what you believe, so your beliefs are going to be part of it, and the energy that you hold within your body, and part of that can come from other experiences as well. And those things also line up to create your money story. The way that it shows up in your business, and specifically in your sales conversations, when you are, let's say that you're having a sales conversation with somebody and you hear the words, "I can't afford it." So if you have the money story that people can't afford your work, or that you can't afford to invest in yourself, or that, there's not enough money for people to have what they want, or whatever the story might be, when someone tells you that they can't afford it, you are going to likely believe them. And the question there is that your belief or is that yours? And the reality is that it's likely both, right? If you're in a place where your money story is wrapped up in your world so that what you see is true all around you, right? Because we look around to find the evidence that our beliefs are true. Then if we're believing that people can't afford something, then we're going to be both attracting clients that are going to also hold that. And when people say that to us, we're going to hold that as true. And it doesn't have to be like that. So we can actually, when we are more free of that money story, then when someone comes to us from that place of not being able to afford it, then we can actually witness with them what they're experiencing. We can hold that space for them, and we can also see what's possible for them that they may not be seeing for themselves. And we can help them to decide if this is something that they want to continue with, believing and holding this experience of not being able to afford it, or if that actually may be a story that is not serving them and that they can actually take actions to create a different experience. So when you encounter a money story of "I can't afford it" when you're on a sales conversation, it can really feel like, okay, we're done here. Like there's nowhere else to go because that's done. It's, of course, there's no money, there's nowhere for us to go. And so that feels like a definite roadblock. And it can be such a beautiful place to hold someone in supporting them through whatever it is that might be keeping them in that experience.
So can you give us like a scenario of how you would work with somebody in that? Because I think that's really important, because we automatically just shut it off right like that, and it's done. And, and it really, what I hear you saying is really bringing awareness to that person, right, of their story, of what the situation is, and maybe it's working. So I'll let you give us like a scenario. How would you handle something like that?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing is to know that this is a possibility and to be able to start to look at what is your money story. So what I would invite people to do is to look at what are some things that you're experiencing in your sales conversations or in your business that you don't want to be experiencing anymore. So, for example, one woman, she was when she was having sales conversations, all of the people that were coming to her were saying yes, and they were taking advantage of her payment plan, which is totally fine, right? For most people, that could be absolutely perfectly fine. Again, it goes back to what is your intention. For her, she wanted to have some people paying on her full pay option and some people on her payment plan. So for what she was wanting, for her intention, there was a misalignment. And so when we really looked at what was underneath it, what we found is that there was actually a really good reason, like our brain is designed to keep us safe, and there was a really good reason for her to be taking money in over a longer period of time than taking the money in full. And even though this wasn't conscious to her, it was like her brain had developed this beautiful scenario to keep her safe. And so as soon as she recognized this, then the very next conversation that she had somebody enroll paying in full pay. So the thing is to be looking at what are the experiences that you're having and that you don't want to be having anymore. And then the other part of it is to be able to look at where might things be out of alignment. So just a really super simplified version, because that's how I can explain it, is that the way that our brain works is actually quite sophisticated in keeping us safe. So there's 3 parts of the brain. There's again, this is my super simplified version. There's the kind of upper part, the middle part, and the lower part of the brain. And the top part of our brain is designed to help us think ahead, to plan, to reason, to use logic. The middle part is our emotional center. And then the lower part of our brain is the part that's in charge of our fight, flight, or freeze. So the lower part of our brain is designed to keep us safe, to protect us. And if there's a part of us that's not congruent, so for example, if part of us wants to have a really successful business, and another part of us is worried that if we are successful, then we won't be a great mom, then we're not congruent. And so our fight, flight, or freeze part is going to kick in to help us stay safe, right? Because our brain knows that if we've done something before and we've survived, that's the path to take. Even if that means creating, some kind of a scenario that you wouldn't choose normally, if you survived, it's an okay, proven method to our brain, and it will choose to do that again. And so that's how we can end up in these situations that feel like self-sabotage, where we'll be so close to creating something different for ourselves, but then that fight, flight, or freeze part will kick in, and we just can't quite get there. So when you're starting to look at what are the parts of you that may not be totally congruent to the outcome that you're wanting to create, that is where you can look to begin to create a new belief or a new possibility for yourself, or identify how is it that you can be safe or choose to take action even though there's a part of you that's feeling like it's not safe. So that's kind of a overarching view of what happens and why it's more. The thing that I really would love for people to take away is that, if they know in their knowing that they can create a different experience for themselves, but it's not happening, whether it's in the sales conversation or it's in their business or anywhere, there's more to it than, I followed the steps and it's not, it's not me, right? It's not you that's not working. It's that there's something. Your brain is actually really doing this very sophisticated technique to keep you safe. And when we can really look at what is the belief behind it, or what might be the energetic pieces that are coming into play that are, quote unquote, keeping you safe, we can create a new possibility there to allow us to be safe in a new scenario. So the whole key is that you want to have your energy and your beliefs and your actions all in alignment with your intentions.
Absolutely. So could you work with people that say they really haven't got a business per se? They have an idea, but they don't really have a business, so they're not really into sales. Because I think this could really help outside. It doesn't necessarily have to be for business, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Right. I mean, for sure. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Absolutely. So, and that's the thing that's so interesting, right, is that, this woman that I explained around the payment plans versus full pay, that had nothing to do with her business, but it had everything to do with her business, right? There was some other personal stuff that was going on for her that made it make more sense, if you really thought about it, to not be taking in all the money right away. But then it energetically and within her beliefs was showing up very much in her business. So it's definitely all connected.
I love it. So now, did you happen to come around to this because this happened for you, that you were able to, or is this part of the whole sales that you had gone through and that you just figured out how to do this?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So that was one of the big things that I kept feeling like I was hitting my head against the wall. I would follow, whoever I was learning from, right? I would follow their system and I would get results, and that was great. And it was great because I was proving to myself I could do it. I could create the income that I wanted, so I could leave my job. I could have a business. But then what I found was that when I would do it again and again, I was not getting the same kinds of consistent results. And so thinking there's got to be something more here. What else is going on? Because I'm doing the same actions, but I'm not getting the same results. And what I found is that it's because there were all kinds of beliefs that were going on underneath it that were helping me to stay safe. And staying safe was staying in my job, getting a paycheck. And even though, I was eating chocolate on my way to work because I was so stressed out and not wanting to go, it wasn't about the job. It was about the fact that my truth is in doing this kind of work and having my own business. So my job was great, but it wasn't aligned for me anymore, and so I needed to make a different choice. And it was almost like it needed to get so uncomfortable that I had to choose something different, but that was the way that I was looking at it at the time. It didn't actually have to be like that, but that was the story that my brain had created. And when I actually was able to get to a place where I found gratitude for my job, and I was so grateful that my job was the thing that was allowing me to fund the starting of this new business for myself and allowing me to do this work that just completely lit my soul on fire, that was the moment where I was able to come into alignment. And it was when I was able to let go of all of the, steps or the systems or whatever that work for other people and be able to trust that I could find my way and that I really needed to integrate what was true for me in my path and take bits and pieces of what I've learned, of course. And it was when I really leaned into how's my way of doing this, that's when it works and that's when it's repeatable and consistent.
That's a huge shift. When you get that,
yeah.
Exactly, because when you realize, wow, that is funding. I think people are listening are going, oh my gosh, I never would have looked at that. So I think that's the really key too, is to shift your perspective around this, right? And to see it in a much different light it's working towards a greater good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise I was living in that state of fight, flight, or freeze. I was literally fighting against myself, right? Taking the actions to create something different, but being too scared to actually really go all the way because what might happen, if I actually leave my job, what might happen? That was the great unknown.
And you mentioned something about your job aligning. Can you kind of define that? How it aligned with your purpose? That's what I'm kind of feeling of that question or that statement that you made. It wasn't in alignment.
Yeah, that my corporate job wasn't. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. There's always been a part of me that has wanted to be an entrepreneur. My parents are entrepreneurs. It's the world I grew up in. I think that even my CEOs and VPs would agree that I'm an entrepreneurial spirit, and that was one of the things that served me really well in startups and in my corporate world. And it was that I saw a new possibility for myself. I very much am a person that does not just go with, this is the way it is. And so in my corporate world, part of the way to me figuring out what I wanted was, I wanted to have more time with my daughter, and so I worked 4 days a week. I made the request, and I built a case and, did all this to be able to work 4 days a week and still do my full job. And that was okay. And so that was my intermediate step to being able to get more clear on what it is that I wanted. And the more that I would move towards taking these little steps that would move me towards what I wanted, it's like the next part of it would open up to me and become more clear. And so it wasn't that my job was out of alignment. It was that there was a part of me that saw something for myself that was different than what I was currently doing. And the reality is a lot of what I do now is very similar to what I was doing in the corporate world, but I get to do it on my own terms and in my own way and serving the people that I really want to be working with, entrepreneurs, as opposed to other companies or whatnot. And it was that being open and willing to look at what is it that I actually want and how can I create that for myself, that is what kept bringing me step by step into, the path that I'm headed on. I'm certainly not even there, wherever there is. It's just an ongoing path for sure. But it is the what is it that I want? That's like the key question. What is it that I really want? And then how is it that this all can create to, how can it all get put together to be able to have that happen?
I love that. So when you talk about upgrading your money story, so you're talking about really recognizing what your story is and creating a more positive around that?
Yes, exactly. So we want to look at what is your money story. We want to have, just like, with my work, coming to some place of gratitude. There's definitely like a healing that takes place around your money story, both from, the belief perspective as well as energetically, because there is, for example, if people are having, let's say that they hold a belief that the universe is abundant and it provides for us in amazing ways, and at the same time, the way that they are raised, or the beliefs of their parents perhaps, were that you have to save every penny in case something bad happens, then even though you believe it to be true, right, that the universe is abundant and that you're always cared for, there's still a part of you that is holding this other story from your family. And those beliefs can be passed down through the DNA, right? They can be passed down genetically. So it's looking at it both from a belief perspective as well as energetically, and being able to upgrade the story so that you do hold new beliefs, and it's not something that you have to work for. It's just a new, true path for you, as well as clearing any of the energetic stuff, any of the blocks or restrictions that are showing up that are keeping you playing out the same story, or a story that's not really what you're wanting to create.
So true. Oh my gosh, so true. So you talk about taking the money breakthrough quiz. Can you guide them? I know we're going to have all your information on the video at the end of the video and the beginning of the video as well. But can you give us a little bit of information about this money quiz, this money breakthrough quiz?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the money quizzes on my site. You don't have to opt in or anything, but you can go to realresultsmentoring.com/moneyquiz, and you can just click the button to be able to download the quiz, and it will just pop up on the screen. And you can go ahead and go through and answer the questions there. And it will help you to identify where a money breakthrough will help you to create and keep more money. And so what you'll notice is that there's instructions that say, if you have selected more than 2 in any one of the columns, then you want to circle that column, because that is a key area for you where additional, where a money breakthrough actually will really help you to either make or keep more money. So the different columns that are there are going to be, there's a forgiveness column, a boundaries column, actions, empowerment, and mindset. And so I'll go through and just share with you briefly what the key takeaway is for each of those columns, so that if you find that you have selected 2 or more statements in any one of those columns, then you'll know what is the common piece that you want to take away as something to look for when you're creating a new money breakthrough for yourself. So, again, the URL is realresultsmentoring.com/moneyquiz. And so if you have selected 2 or more statements in the forgiveness column, then you're unconsciously holding yourself back from producing consistent income. And forgiveness is this area that's really showing up. So it's as if you keep kind of hitting your own money glass ceiling, when what you want to really create is a more financially successful space in your life. So forgiveness is that one. The next one is boundaries. So in this, 2 or more statements in this area means that you're likely putting the needs and wishes of others first, and you probably often feel like money is something that happens to you instead of feeling like you're in control of money. The next one is action. So in this column, it means that you're missing simple systems for handling your money, your bills, or even paying off debt. So you could be missing out on, simple opportunities that would help you to be able to get ahead of your bills and create more income. The empowerment column is really where you're inwardly not sure how to stand in your value and be compensated highly for your expertise and for your gifts. So this is a common one, and when you break free of that, you can definitely see a really dramatic shift in your bank account. And then the mindset column is where you'd really benefit from a shift in your mindset so that you can create this new perspective to see what's possible for yourself and how to keep yourself focused on where you want to be instead of where you are right now. So those are going to be the key columns there, so you can go ahead and check that out and see what you get, and then be able to use that as a way to identify what can come next for you.
Awesome. I love it. And so, again, it's realresultsmentoring.com/money quiz. Thank you so much, because those were huge, and I think this is going to be a really huge breakthrough, I think, for people to go to your website. And, again, we'll have all that information. But thank you, Mickey, so much for being on the show. This was amazing, incredible. I think it's, money is a topic that people want to, we don't want to talk about, but we do want to talk about it, right? We don't want to be vulnerable.
Exactly.
So this was just such a wealth of information. So thank you so much for being on the show today. We greatly appreciate having you here.
Thank you, Linda. It was really great to be here.
You're welcome. And thank you for all the listeners out there who joined us today and the ones to be joining us via YouTube. We thank you so much. Please don't forget to follow, subscribe, comment, and like us. And you can join me next week, March 24th, for the show Miracle Signs and Wonders of Healing Cancer with Stephen and Shirley. And then beginning April, I'm transitioning the radio show to having guest experts in the area of relationships. So if that is something of interest to you, I'd love for you to join me, so stay tuned for more to come. And again, thank you, Mickey, so much. Really, this was just so eye-opening in so many different areas. So thank you for all the tips and you're doing.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again. Bye.